Good morning, world. Welcome to another episode of Xendependently Minded. If you are a new or returning listener, I truly hope you enjoyed this episode. Before we get into the episode, here's a brief disclaimer. Enjoy. The views and opinions expressed by past, present, and future guests of Xendependently Minded have not been expressed by me, and they may not even be shared by me. The views and opinions that I express are, of course, satirical. If you're confused, then try this thought experiment to help you understand. If you like what I said, or say, and you agree, then you can tell yourself that it is my real opinion, and it's not satirical. If you don't agree with what I say, and you're disgusted and repulsed by it, then obviously I'm just being satirical. Obviously, these aren't my real opinions, because this is clearly a character, and nobody would actually have these opinions, would they? Anyway, enjoy the episode. How's it going, boys and girls? It's your boy, biggest air quotes of all time, journalist, Don Lemon, back at it with another episode of Let's See How Stupid I Can Make Myself Look, because I don't have a team of writers and CNN writing my talking points for me. Lots of fun stuff has happened the past few days since we last spoke. I think it's been 2 weeks, so got some juicy things to cover. First and foremost, I'm going to give you guys a little summary of the 5 or 6 things I'll be talking about. First thing I'm going to be talking about, I'll be talking about ICE. I'm going to move on to NATO Chief Mark Rutte. Don't know how these Europeans pronounce their names. I'm sure if I accidentally confuse one group of people with a slightly different group of people that are 20 miles west, they will try to bomb my house. Anyway, moving on to the next piece, I'll talk about Ilhan Omar and her assault, I guess you could call it. I know that's what the media is calling it. And then I'm going to talk about the Epstein files, and then I'm going to end with a little bit of thoughts on something I've been wanting to get off my chest for a while. I hope you guys are doing well. Like I said, a few things have transpired in the past couple weeks, one of which, honestly, I'm being dead serious, honestly had me contemplating quitting doing the podcast. And I'm not talking about my personal life, I'm talking about in the world. And that's the Epstein files, which I will get to later. But, you know, the scale of these files and just the things that they're allowing us to see, the things that are being released, it's heavy. It's heavy stuff. It's dark. And if you really sit down and you think about it and you do research into it, it's one of those things where, you know, maybe a regular person who doesn't make a stupid podcast that barely anyone listens to, maybe a regular person will just be like, yeah, obviously there are evil, corrupt, powerful people that do bad things. Who cares? But I'll save it for later. But first thing I wanted to talk about, ice. So it's frozen water. You put it in your cup. Just kidding. That's like the favorite hack joke for every single out of touch. I mean, it's kind of redundant to say out of touch celebrity because they're all out of touch. You look up the definition of celebrity and out of touch is a synonym. It's the first synonym listed in the dictionary. But a bunch of out of touch celebrities make jokes like that. You know, they've all been wearing pins. Mark Ruffalo, every single time he gets a chance, he gets on camera because it's all the award shows right now. Past few weeks, there have been a bunch of award shows that nobody watches, nobody listens to. It's always been a thing where just a bunch of rich, out of touch people, kiss each other's asses, toot each other's horns about their fake made-up awards and their fake made-up accomplishments. I'm a big movie fan. I love movies. I love film. You could say that I'm a movie buff. I'm not one of those people that refers to movies as films because it makes me sound smart. Also, my favorite movie is not a weird like Serbo-Hungarian snuff film about a bowling ball that crashes into a duck or something, and it's fully in black and white, and it's 7 hours long. I'm not one of those people. My favorite movie is probably, it's a three-way tie, actually, between The Dark Knight, Dead Poets Society, and Spirited Away. So, you know, these aren't indie films. These are big. There we go. I just called it a film. These are big, you know, blockbuster movies. Spirited Away is the highest grossing movie in Japanese history, I think. So, anyway, back to ICE. People are falling for a lot of the really embarrassing propaganda or just outright lies. You know, there's a difference between propaganda and lies. There's a famous like graphic that I have saved on my phone. I wish I could share it here, but I definitely won't be able to find it with all the other 12,000 memes that I have saved on my phone and in the cloud. But there's a picture of a guy. There's two guys chasing each other, and their feet are shaped kind of pointy to where if you zoom in on one of them, it looks like a knife. So you have a guy's face, and then you have one guy like running next to another guy. But if you zoom in close enough, one of the legs flailing can look like someone holding up a knife about to stab another person. And it shows the bigger picture of the two people running next to each other with their pointy feet. It says reality. And then zoomed in to make it look like the foot is a knife being stabbed from one man to another says media, how the media portrays it. I'm not doing really any justice, but I'm sure you could picture it in your brain. I'm sure the people who listen to this are a lot smarter than me, but people are falling for a lot of stories. Like there was a famous picture that I saw a lot of people falling for where there was a little Mexican boy. Had a backpack on. It's a sad picture. He's crying. He's standing next to like an unmarked van. It looks like an ICE vehicle. He's sitting there crying. It's sad. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, you got to remove the emotion from the situation. Screw that. I love kids. I have younger siblings. I have 3 younger siblings. The thought of my 3 younger siblings being abandoned, which is what happened to this kid, unfortunately, that breaks my heart. Actually, it's truly an all-around sad situation, but I'm going to get into a little bit later. That's how we got here. We got here by being moderate. We got here by being soft on criminals, because people who are in the country illegally are breaking the law. Therefore, by definition, they're criminals. The story that was being ran about this kid was ICE took this little boy and they used him as bait, and they went to a building and they used the little boy and his crying and his tears to draw an illegal out, or to draw, they don't call them illegals, they call them whatever, la cucaracha. I don't know what they call them. I don't know what they call these people, but the woke gets woker and woker every single day. It gets to the point where you can't even refer to a homeless person as homeless if you're a member, if you consider yourself a leftist, like a really far leftist. I'm not saying all leftists are like this, but it's hard to differentiate these days, because the far left, which are the minority, they are the loudest. They're the ones that don't have jobs, so they spend all day posting on social media. And then if you don't think about it and you're a member of a regular, the rest of the 99% of Americans that are normal, you look and go, oh, dang, these Democrats are crazy. Some of them are. Some of them aren't. Same goes for Republicans, which is why you should never, ever, if you ever vote, if you don't, it's fine. If you do vote, don't ever register for a party. Like, that's the stupidest thing you could. It's like owing allegiance to something that doesn't know you exist and then defending it with your life, when the second you die, they'll just replace your ballot with another dead person. Anyway, so the fake story that the media made was that ICE used this crying kid, 5-year-old kid, to bait and draw out some good-hearted illegals, or unwelcomed. I don't know what you call them. I know Democratic politicians, they like to refer to them as the slave labor. They don't call them slave labor, but they always pull that quiet part out loud thing where they're like, well, the kind of the good-hearted leftists will say no human is illegal, and I get where they're coming from, because you look at a lot of the people that come to America illegally, they're coming from places that are worse than America, very bit worse off. And I've said this a million times, that if I was a parent of kids and I grew up in Mexico and I grew up in El Salvador is safer now, but I grew up in Honduras. I grew up in a place where it is just ravaged by gang wars, cartel battles, gunfire. I would 1000%, without a doubt, try to go to somewhere better. And I'm not looking into the penal codes of South Texas to go, oh, is this illegal? Is this legal? What is the punishment? I'm going. I'm tossing my kids over the wall, hoping that they can get there. If they got to fend for themselves, it is what it is. So good-hearted leftists will say something like that. It comes from a place of passion, and I respect it. It's just some things are not as simple as, hey, is this nice? Just because it's nice means it's good. It's the right decision. That's not always the case. But then you have, the elite Democrats, the corrupt politicians, the people that, along with the corrupt politicians, career politicians of the right, have ruined this country. They haven't completely destroyed it, but they have tried their darndest to destroy it. And it's why we are here. But they will say, these corrupt politicians will say, well, no, who's going to clean the toilets? Who's going to pick all the strawberries for $1 a day? They'll say this. Many of them have. Everyone's favorite grifter, Marjorie Taylor Greene, was all rah, rah, rah when Trump helped get her elected, going balls to the wall about secure the border, secure the border. All Marjorie Taylor Greene meant by secure the border was secure my place in office so I can insider trade, then I can leave after having sponsored and co-sponsored 0 bills that ever went anywhere, that ever helped anybody, and then I could get a lifetime pension. That's what she meant by secure the border. She did that little thing where she crossed her fingers behind her back as she pretended to be a person of the people, a representative of the people. Marjorie Taylor Greene was against deportations, mass deportations, which is something you need when you have potentially 20 to 30. Some people say 50 million. I think that's way too high, but it could be true. But I don't think 1/6 of the country are illegals. I would say 20 to 30 million sounds about right to me. Those are the kind of trusted numbers. But when 20 to 30 came in a 4-year span under the previous administration, you have to have mass deportations. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene and other shills all across Congress will come out and say, but whoa, we don't need to deport that many people. Marjorie Taylor Greene has construction businesses that allegedly depend on some slave labor, and that's going to increase the cost if she has to pay Americans minimum wage or a living wage, because construction jobs, they don't pay great, but they don't pay bad either. They pay pretty well, and if you can move yourself up and be some kind of manager, even if you're just a laborer, you can make a living depending on where you're staying at. But so that's the thing. It's like that famous clip on The View of that lady saying from Trump's first administration, well, who's going to clean your toilets, Donald Trump? And all the other birds with a combined 30 IQ are like, oh no, they do more than just clean toilets. I'm like, well, this is how the elite thinks. This is how the elite thinks of, not just of illegals that they're using as a means to an end. A lot of these elites, all the corrupt grifter elites, they look at all regular day-to-day hardworking Americans as a means to an end. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like I said, she said everything that her constituents were passionate about. She said the right things, the things that would get them energized, and she was popular, and she still is popular. She's out now, and she's going to probably continue to keep her contacts with her Congress buddies and her business buddies and continue to profit off of war, which is something that she pretended to stand against. Like I said, buying Lockheed Martin stock right before Russia invaded Ukraine. Not a coincidence. Yes, Lockheed Martin is the best defense contracting company in the United States. It is a smart investment, but the amount and the timing of her investment leads me and most people to believe that she's insider trading. And regardless, militaries around the world, if they have the capabilities and the technology, they're watching everybody. They're watching each other. They're watching troop movements. Anytime there's a big amount of, big weaponry that's being moved, we're going to know about it. At least we, as in the United States. The United States is the most powerful military in the world. They have bases everywhere. The bases are not there for fun. They're not there to just do pull-ups and run miles quickly. And also, Russia we've been watching them forever, and they have undoubtedly been watching us as well. So, for sure the military knew about it, and I'm sure that certain members of Congress did, if not all of them. So, this is my long-winded way of saying this story was fake. The real story of this 5-year-old boy sitting there crying was ICE went to go apprehend an illegal. He was with his son. He abandoned his son when he saw that there were agents that were coming to apprehend him. So he ran away. And then ICE had to take the kid and put him in safe hands, which is, it was cold outside. I think this was in Minnesota. It's cold there this time of year. And that's where the picture was taken. So the picture was taken. They were keeping the kid in a safe place while they go apprehend his criminal father. And that's how we got the story. That's how propaganda was created. and dispersed, and many people fell for it. So it's unreal to see this propaganda continue to trick and work on people. It's like, I remember when I was in middle school and we would go to the computer lab and we would write an essay, make an argumentative essay. We'd pick a topic that we were passionate about, and then we would try to anticipate counter arguments. We learned how to find sources, because you can't just pull something out of your butt and then act like it's fact when you're trying to make an argument. Or at least, I mean, you can, but it's not going to be a convincing argument. So before everybody had smartphones and computers in their pockets where they could verify information easily, people would fall for propaganda. Before the internet, the information that you got came from encyclopedias. And who wrote the encyclopedias? Who funded the encyclopedias? Probably the victors. They say history is written by the victors. So you can kind of give, before the invention of the internet and like accessible internet, you can give people a pass for falling for propaganda, because we were supposed to be able to just trust authoritative sources. Now we have supercomputers. It feels like people fall for propaganda more than they did before. So I'm not surprised, but it's a shame, because you've had 2 people lose their lives now. Two people, only 2, and I don't want to say only 2 because I truly believe that every life has a purpose, whether that purpose be to just wreak havoc and then eventually get arrested and be in prison for the rest of your life, or be a lol cow, or be someone that someone mocks on the internet and makes fun of, or someone that makes a big impact on a lot of people. Every life has a purpose. So it is sad when 2 people lose their lives. The one lady in Minnesota, and then the guy who got himself killed after aggressively impeding ICE agents holding a gun legally. Yes, I know, illegally he was armed, but he had a gun that's famous for going off at random times. It was a tense situation. I know if you watch the video as an outsider, pretty much everyone can lead to the conclusion that the guy probably should not have been killed. But if you watch the video at full speed that up times 2, put yourself in the ICE agent situations, put yourself in the agent situations, adrenaline pumping, this guy has a gun, it just went off, what's probably going to happen? Try, if you can, put yourself in these agents' shoes. I know what's going to happen, because I've been on this kick where I've been watching body cam videos on YouTube all the time. Not the violent ones where people get shot, but just the ones where, someone tries to steal. They've been stealing for 10 years, they finally get caught, and then they try to lie about it. Regardless, I've been seeing the funniest and the worst comparisons between this guy, who, I apologize for not knowing his name, because really, I'm not mocking him, I just don't remember his name. I don't like to mock people who lose their lives just because it fits my side. It fits my side to celebrate the death of someone. That's for Democrats. We saw how they reacted to Charlie Kirk. And I'm not just talking about crazy leftists. We all saw thousands of social media posts of people celebrating his death, as well as a couple prominent politicians. AOC, Barack Obama, the former president of the United States, and Ilhan Omar, justifying the death of Charlie Kirk. So that's something I'll never forget. But regardless, I will never stoop to their level and celebrate this guy getting killed. Anyway, people are comparing him to Kyle Rittenhouse. Well, here's the difference. Kyle Rittenhouse worked. He crossed state lines because he didn't live in Kenosha, but he worked in Kenosha. He was there. There are videos and pictures of him cleaning up trash, cleaning up littering, trying to paint over graffiti, from as far as I remember. And then 2 convicted child sex offenders attacked him. The one that died actually was charged, was guilty, found guilty, was a registered sex offender, had abused a boy who was like under 10 years old or something. So they attacked him. He was there cleaning up the city. This guy was purposefully antagonizing, blocking, recording, yelling at, shouting at, possibly fighting with another woman there. And then his weapon went off. So the difference between the two couldn't be larger. So, also, by the way, a bunch of jobless retards are filling the streets of Minnesota as we speak. They might still be doing it, even though ICE is supposedly drawing down its numbers there, or at least going about things better, which they should. They should always seek to improve their processes. But they're a bunch of jobless idiots. not just in Minnesota, but across the United States that are protesting deportations of illegals. They're criminals. Some of them, it's not just the crime of being in America illegally that they've committed. The one that this guy got killed for, they were specifically there in Minnesota to deport an illegal who threw a rock through a bus window and it cracked an 8-year-old's skull. So these are the people that some of these people are deciding, hey, my life is worth risking for this guy who cracked a girl's skull open with a rock. So I'm not mocking anybody. I'm not celebrating anybody's death. Absolutely not. It's just sometimes, like video games, there's random number generations. Sometimes it is best to be aware of the risk factor. Do a cost-benefit analysis. What's the potential risk if I show up to an ICE operation where they're trying to deport a violent illegal criminal, and I show up and I yell at them, I berate them, I possibly spit near them or towards them, I tussle with a woman, I have a gun in my pocket and it goes off. If you just plug this into Grok, it'll tell you probably should avoid this situation. But unfortunately he lost his life, and I don't take any joy from that. It's just, these are the times we're at. This is how powerful propaganda, like showing a little boy crying with his little backpack on, that can get to people for sure. I have 100% fallen for propaganda emotionally, and I will in the future. That's why it's so powerful. It's why it's a tool that's been used forever. Propaganda has been used since, probably back in earlier human civilizations that we don't even know existed yet. They used propaganda. It's a human thing. It's a human thing. We use what we can to manipulate the masses. It is what it is. But that all being said, Tim Walz should be in prison. It's not enough that he's stepping down from Minnesota, because probably someone that's worse than him, that can't even act as quote unquote normal as him, will probably be the next governor, and he should be in prison. He should. He's the fraud that's been going on in Minnesota. I mean, it's not just Minnesota. I talked about it before. The fraud that has taken place there, for sure, has been brought to his attention before, and he either ignored it, or he signed off on it, or worse, he benefited from it, so he should be in prison. And honestly, also, before I move on to the next topic, is there a more pathetic person in the world than modern actors? Truly, they're the most pathetic people on the planet. Imagine your entire life, your entire self-worth, your confidence, your image revolves around what other people think, what other people's approval decides whether or not you think you're worth it. I kind of feel bad for them, but they make millions of dollars, so I don't really feel bad for them. They're chameleons. Actors are chameleons. If chameleons didn't suck balls. Jimmy Kimmel fake cried on his show that nobody watched until he got taken off the air. When he got taken off the air because of his comments about Charlie Kirk, that actually saved his career, because he was for sure going the Stephen Colbert route and just going to start a podcast that he does in his bathtub or something that nobody watches. Jimmy Kimmel did a fake cry on his show that no one watched. Mark Ruffalo pretends to be emotional every single time he's on camera, but he's always been a bad actor. I'm not just saying he's a bad actor because I think he's an insufferable human being who needs to learn to shut up. But if he shuts up, he'll probably stop getting roles, because he doesn't get roles based on his acting skills. Just go to Avengers Infinity War when Bruce Banner's trying to get Hulk to come out. Go to Avengers Endgame. Go to Shutter Island. His acting is some of the worst acting you've ever seen in your life. It is just terrible. It's on the level of Nickelodeon shows. It's that bad. But at least those Nickelodeon shows made you laugh. He just makes me sad. I look at every single stunt that he does, and I can just see the dollar signs in his eyes, because there is no life. There is no soul. He sold his soul a long time ago. I can just see the dollar signs going cha-ching in his eyes as he tries to drum up fake tears for the one lady that got killed by ICE. Natalie Portman also, the funniest thing with her is she's Jewish, and she got a lot of hate for simply being Jewish and believing that Israel should exist. So the left attacks her relentlessly. So she jumped on the bandwagon and was like, oh my gosh, it's such a horrible thing. We need to stand up to this. it's sad. I mean, they literally they go wherever the wind blows. If for the next 4 administrations we had an even more MAGA person than Trump, actors would do the exact same thing. It's whatever gets them roles. You pick the opinions that will get you roles, that will impress the producers, that will impress the hiring the casting agents, that will impress the agents that represent all these Hollywood people. It's pathetic. Couldn't be me. The next thing I wanted to talk about, really, there's been some tensions in NATO for the past year. I mean, there's been tensions with NATO for a while, but the tensions are really it seems like an all-time high with Trump's recent comments about Greenland. He does that Trump thing where he floats an idea out to see how people react, where he says like, well, I won't rule out military action. I won't rule it out. We might take Greenland. We might use military action. I don't know. We'll see. We can do what we want. But he doesn't usually mean it. He just wants to kind of, it's when you lick your finger and you put your finger in the air to see which direction the wind is blowing. Regardless, it's pretty reckless. I'll admit that. It's pretty reckless. I understand strategically why America would want Greenland. The thing is, we already have a base there. I don't see why we can't just possibly expand on the bases, build more bases. We can do some kind of deal where we open 2 more satellite or ICBM defense missile system bases and make a deal where 50% of the workforce that work there, whether it be janitors, whether it be construction workers, whether it be, engineers, they can be locals. So, it benefits us because we get to have an increased presence there, get to put some technology there, but it also benefits the local Greenland population because it's creating jobs for them. It's giving them a stable source of income. Could be getting paid in US dollars, which, everybody wants. Most everybody. The countries that are cool want US dollars. But so Trump's comments on Greenland, as well as the way he's been treating leaders of other NATO countries, has kind of caused some tension. And the funny thing has always been the entire world, especially our allies, especially our NATO allies, have complained about the way that we do things. Not just the way Trump does things, but the way that America has done things since NATO's inception. They complain, they whine, they moan, they groan about the way that America handles conflicts. Sometimes rightfully so, but regardless, they'll complain, they'll whine. But the second Trump even floats the idea of us decreasing our presence, or even just outright leaving NATO, or members of Trump's administration, members of his cabinet even say, maybe we'll leave NATO. Maybe, we never needed NATO, like Trump said. Also, I don't agree with his comments. I don't agree. I thought it was disrespectful what he said about, some of the NATO allies that jumped to our defenses, that straight up sent some of their soldiers to die for us after we were attacked in 9/11. My heart goes out to those families. I truly appreciate anybody who came to our defense then. I didn't appreciate it. I wasn't cool when Trump said that, oh, well, they stood behind the front lines. Our guys were all on the front lines. There's no winning there. There's no point in desecrating the corpses of our allies that came to help us when we were attacked. Regardless, NATO chief Mark Rutte defended Trump. And he did mention the thing that we've all been saying for a lot, not all of us, but many of us have been rightfully pointing out, that Trump warned NATO of its Arctic security issues during his first presidency. And he also warned NATO and Europe of the dangers of becoming completely reliant on Russian oil. So why would you be completely reliant on the oil of a country that you deem as like the world's worst group of people, the worst government, most corrupt people? Putin is terrible. He's a dictator. He's horrible. He's evil. He's the worst guy alive. He's the new Hitler. Why would you keep buying his oil? Why would you keep enriching him? Why would you keep enriching the military of his country? Because they're the ones who benefit. And, the citizens of Russia. If they have a strong economy, they're living better lives, right? He warned them of that. They laughed in his face. There's videos of him talking, and they all have their little headsets on. They're getting the translations, and then they're like smirking. Now look at the economies of every single European Union and or NATO country that isn't oil independent. So look at Germany's economy. Their inflation numbers are pretty bad. Their unemployment numbers might not be as bad, but their housing costs are bad. Their energy costs are bad. I can even say that my rent went up pretty sizable percentage because of the Russia-Ukraine war, because of the price of oil, because Germany decided to shut down nuclear facilities and start burning coal again. Energy costs go up, and when the energy costs go up, everything goes up because everything uses energy. Down to construction, farms, farming equipment, everybody's cars that they use to get to work. The cost goes up when energy costs go up. So the NATO chief, again, I'm sure Mark Rutte has complained about Trump endlessly, but the second that NATO even gets an inkling that we're going to stop doing their job for them and let them get away with, multiple presidents, every single president until Trump has let NATO get away with breaking their one promise, which is spending a certain amount of money every year on defense. Because ideally, we don't have to fight NATO and Europe's wars for them. We don't have to fight their little petty conflicts for them. They should at least, we can be there as the big brother to enforce, but you should still have your own military. The only issue with that I see is if we don't somehow play the mediator role, there are a bunch of NATO countries that have blood feuds with each other. Poland is chomping at the bit to get back at Russia. Russia probably wants Poland back. They clearly want Ukraine back, or some of them want Ukraine back. The Balkans all hate each other. French and Belgians don't like each other. I mean, there's all these petty beefs, and if we don't play the mediator role, maybe we'll have another Cambodia and Thailand. I don't know. But regardless, America runs NATO. Yes, the other countries matter. The point of this is that it is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but we are the kings. What we say goes most of the time, and little coward Blackstone leaders like Merz and other frauds like Macron can screw off, like 100%. Every time Merz opens his mouth, I think, man, I can't wait for another political party to take over in Germany and start, hopefully maybe save Germany. Because the CDU, the Christian Democratic Union, and every other joke of a fake moderate party, the CDU is considered conservative. Angela Merkel is considered conservative. I mean, these terms mean nothing to the rest of the world, apparently, because Angela Merkel is like a radical leftist in the eyes of Americans. But the CDU is technically considered like center-right, which is a complete joke. So I'm not saying abandon our NATO allies. I'm not saying, hey, don't listen to a word they say, because Trump knows that we run NATO and what he says goes, but he still talks to them. We still have diplomatic relations with them. He still respects them. He just has a crazy, sometimes could be pretty risky way of going about things, but you definitely don't need to listen when you're the boss. You don't need to listen to coward leaders like Merz and Macron. Do you know where Merz came from? Friedrich Merz, the current prime minister of Germany, who, by the way, was elected in a special election because the last crony was kicked out. He was removed. There was a vote of no confidence because of how bad he's done. He probably also was propped up by some puppet masters and then removed when he was no longer, serving his purpose. Friedrich Merz, the current prime minister of Germany, used to be on the board of BlackRock. So you tell me if that sounds like a guy who is for the people, of the people, by the people. No, he's for the corporation, by the corporation, of the corporation. These leaders, if you call them that, they're not to be trusted. So it's unfortunate because Germany is a great, great country, has such a great history. People from around the world, human beings from around the world throughout human history, at least the human history that we understand, have been coming to Europe. Europe is the center of the world. People have been coming here forever. It's the birthplace of Western civilization. It's the birthplace of much of what still serves as the foundation of the greatest places in the world right now. In human history, some of the greatest places in human history were created and inspired by Europe. Germany has been a place that people have been coming to for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And all it takes is a couple coward BlackRock puppet master, corporate shill, globalists like Angela Merkel, Friedrich Merz, the last guy, what's his name, Scholz. It takes a couple bad leaders to just completely destroy an amazing country, an important historical country. Trump shouldn't listen to these people. Neither should any American president. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if next election it's Gavin Newsom or J.D. Vance or Ben Shapiro. I don't care who it is. Don't listen to these cowards. Consider your allies. This is an organization. This is a team, right? There's going to be debates. There's going to be tension. Nobody likes to be in a cooperative organization and then have everybody kiss each other's butt and go, yes, I agree. I bow down to you, sir. You're right. So we're going to have debates. Healthy debate is good. But don't listen to people like Macron and Merz. Listen to people like Giorgia Meloni. More Giorgia Meloni. More Viktor Orban. Less Keir Starmer. Less Friedrich Merz. Less Emmanuel Macron. We don't need these people. I mean, let those people, I'm not saying we need regime change. Definitely not. But let the people continue to protest, continue to push back, continue to resist these people because they're not popular. The only reason Merz and the CDU and the SPD and these other parties that are not the AfD end up winning elections is because they coalesce. They join together. Coalition politics is a thing in Europe. So you have multiple parties that decide, let's beat those guys, and then we'll decide who's going to be the leader. Macron is not popular. He only is still prime minister because the last election they had, the right-wing candidate, I'm forgetting her name right now, Marine Le Pen, she was removed and deemed like not allowed to run for election by a kangaroo court in the same manner that they tried to get Trump to not be legally allowed to run in 2024. Friedrich Merz won because of coalition politics, and it's the same in the UK. I mean, I'm not super dialed up on UK history. I'm not super familiar with UK politics, but if somebody's listening that understands it better, you can correct me. But from what I understand, Brexit happened. Brexit was close, but the people decided that they wanted to leave the European Union for multiple reasons. But one of the most commonly cited reasons was that they felt like they were kind of being leached. They're one of the biggest contributors to the European Union, and the European Union is kind of leeching off them, and it doesn't really serve them a benefit. The UK can live on its own. Boris Johnson gets in. He's supposed to be the conservative guy. Actually makes Brexit happen. Officially, so it was voted on. It took a while, and then it finally officially happened. They left the European Union. Then what happens? COVID happens. All of a sudden, their economy is slowing down. It could be a disaster. What do? They import cheap labor from third world countries. That's how we get here. Boris Johnson also was not actually a real conservative. He was a European conservative, which just means like center left. So he wasn't a real conservative. He was a disaster. He was a failure. He was a corrupt scumbag. I don't like him, and I'm not even from the UK. I have really no ties to the UK. I despise him because he contributed to the prolonging of the Russia-Ukraine war. And I'm not gonna tell the story again, but long story short, a couple members of the United States government, along with Boris Johnson, went over to Zelensky and kept him from signing a peace treaty that Russia and Ukraine had agreed on a couple months into the Russia-Ukraine war, told him, you cannot let Vladimir Putin win, thus prolonging the war, completely scrapping and destroying the closest thing we ever got to peace since the war started, and it's been super mega ultra downhill since then. Ukraine has probably lost 1 million plus soldiers in a country that's not even that large. It's like a year and a half to 2 years ago now, they were already pulling like 50 and 40-year-old men, cripples, handicapped people, retired people from the streets because they had no one else to use as bantha fodder to go die for this globalist war against Russia. Anyway, I'm not defending Russia. I'm not a Putin fan. I don't care about Russia. I'm an American. It's just, I don't like seeing people die. I'm old-fashioned that way. Regardless, that all being said, ending this segment, talking about NATO. The United States runs NATO. I mean, Trump is doing this. Trump's administration is handling this pretty well. I mean, like I said, there's some rhetoric that I feel is a little dangerous, but regardless, they're handling this well. They know how to handle these allies. Still, we should respect our NATO allies, which I know Trump does. I know America does. I sure do. We shouldn't disrespect NATO allies that came to our defense after 9/11 and every other war that we started. We had NATO allies always. I had a German coworker who fought in the German military and had been deployed to Afghanistan a few times and had lost friends there. So we shouldn't disrespect them. But regardless, you can't trust people like Merz and Macron. I mean, Merz said Germany can't build an army because it would be filled with millions of military-age Muslims from third world countries that they would now have to arm. That's not a good look. Merz actually, I'm not kidding you to look it up, he actually admitted that they can't build an army because it would be filled with, I guess I'll put it this way, it would be filled with people that Germany has pissed off in the past. It would be filled with people who are from areas that Germany has contributed to destroying. Countries that have been destabilized and that Germany probably contributed to, Germany would now be arming these people. And even a stupid, empty suit like Merz knows that it's not smart to arm a bunch of immigrants, which Germany is famous for bringing in unregulated, unmonitored, unvetted, unchecked immigrants from fourth world countries that have been destabilized, like countries from the Middle East, fourth world countries from Africa. Even Merz, an idiot like him, knows that it is not smart to give weapons to these people because most of them will not commit a violent crime. Some of them might be contributing members of society. Many of them don't ever bother to learn German. They don't ever bother to get jobs. Sometimes they're told by the German authorities not to get a job explicitly. Don't quote me. This is coming from my German coworkers. Many of them use credit cards and debit cards that are paid for by German taxpayers. Many of them take disability. Many of them fake sponsor 20 children of theirs, which aren't children. They're just random cousins and people that they knew from back in Fallujah or whatever. Anyway, even Merz knows it's not smart to build an army with these people because you can talk to any veteran. Doesn't even have to be from America, but anybody that's fought within the last 40 years in the Middle East. Sometimes these people that we're helping, they betray us. They betray our guys. They turn their backs and they get shot at. Happens all the time. It's happened before. Unfortunately, will continue to happen. Germany doesn't want to give weapons to these people. It's, I guess, the one good thing you could say about Merz. He said the quiet part out loud. He said, "We don't have enough patriotic Germans because we've been beating down on them since 1945. We've taken a dump on them and made it pretty much almost criminal, if not extremely taboo, to even be proud of Germany. It's taboo to even fly a German flag if there isn't a sporting event going on. If you don't believe me, look it up, or just come to Germany. You're not going to see a lot of German flags being flown. And if you do, it's going to be near one of those little farm plots of land. But yeah, Merz realized, we don't have enough patriotic Germans to go fight wars for us. So we just can't build an army at all, but we'll complain about Trump and America, even though we need them. Do better, Germany. Please, I beg you. I love you, but do better." So the next thing I want to briefly talk about, because it's not worth even talking about half drunk and half asleep, let alone wasting my time on a Sunday morning with a good cup of Joe next to me. It's not really worth spending that much time on this, but Ilhan Omar was accosted by somebody while giving a speech somewhere. I don't mean to downplay it, to be disrespectful, because I don't want this to happen to anybody, even somebody that I really disagree with fundamentally on every single thing I'm disgusted by, I really despise and I want out of my country, like Ilhan Omar. I don't want things happening to anybody, including her. She was sprayed by some strange guy ran up to her. It's scary. I mean, he could have had a knife, he could have had a gun. Luckily he didn't, but he sprayed her with some unknown substance, and then she kind of had this little moment at the end where they were trying to get her off stage, and then she shouted, "I'm not going to let the bullies keep me from speaking." I condemn this behavior. I condemn anybody going up and assaulting anybody or accosting anybody. But look at the media coverage on this. Every single media outlet explicitly said that she was assaulted. She was attacked. Ilhan Omar was attacked. She got sprayed by something. It could have been dangerous chemical. I'm not downplaying that. I was raised better by my parents than to celebrate something like this, and I didn't celebrate it. When I saw the video, it made me, I got a little butterflies in my stomach, because we don't need more political violence. We don't need any violence, but we definitely don't need political violence. That stuff sucks. It actually sucks, regardless of the side it is. I truly, truly hate violence and political violence, especially. And I feel that a lesser person would celebrate this. A lesser person would celebrate somebody getting accosted, attacked, assaulted, whatever you want to call it. A lesser person like Ilhan Omar, because I'm not sure if you guys know, but her comments and her response to Charlie Kirk's assassination, do you guys know what that was? You can look it up for yourself, but she said that Charlie Kirk deserved it. Ilhan Omar said that Charlie Kirk, a husband and a father, deserved to get his neck shot and his neck blown off in front of people, hundreds if not thousands of people, and millions of people on the internet. Ilhan Omar said that he deserved it. Enough said. The next topic I want to talk about, this is what I kind of alluded to before. It's gotten pretty heavy. The more I've researched it, the more I've taken notes on it. And I not only debated even not talking about this, I actually debated just ending the podcast, because I know it sounds cheesy. I started this podcast originally because I wanted to, I had a lot of thoughts. I had a lot of pent-up energy and opinions on things, but I didn't have that many people to talk to. I had my family. My family's very supportive. When I started this podcast, I was still living with my parents. I have my lovely wife, my amazing wife, who's super supportive, but, sometimes it's a bit much. It's a bit much to get an unsolicited 2-hour rant about a obscure political topic or obscure historical moment. I completely acknowledge that. So I mainly started the podcast so I could just kind of share my opinions with the world, not because I feel that they're righteous, not because I feel like they're necessarily even the best or I'm so right about everything, but really it's because I wanted to find my voice. I'm a writer. My dream is to, maybe one day be able to live off of the podcast and books that I sell, that people, pay their hard-earned money to support and to read and to enjoy. I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always written stories since I was a kid because I just love stories. I love books. It's like you get to unleash, you get a view into the endless imagination and the unlimited creative power of the brain. So I did the podcast really because I thought that, I could speak my mind. I've always said that it's kind of been like talk therapy for me. And also it's helped me flex my critical thinking muscle, my independent research muscle and skills, because that is something that, if like any skill that you learn, whether it be from your parents or your friends or school or just doing it on your own, if you don't exercise the muscle, it'll atrophy and you'll lose it. So the podcast really served as like therapy, talk therapy kind of. It served as a platform for me to be able to get better at researching, critical thinking, forming arguments in a coherent manner, because anybody can rant for 47 minutes and 34 seconds as I have so far. But being able to, rationalize an argument without getting emotional, making a logically sound argument or assertion or statement, that's a skill. It takes practice. And the podcast, I'm super grateful for the platform. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's morphed from something, originally was supposed to be a gaming podcast where I played video games with friends and then we told stories from our childhood. And then it turned into kind of a commentary on current events. And I've learned a lot. I've grown as a person, as a podcaster, as a speaker, as a man, as a writer, as an orator, whatever. But a lot of the times, when big stories were being broken and I was, I'm not a journalist because I'm not doing the investigative work, but, I am sharing a lot of investigative work. I looked at some of the flight logs for Jeffrey Epstein, his flight logs from back in the day. I read some of those and kind of thought about who could these people be? Who are these passengers? What are the initials BC and PC? Is it President Clinton and Bill Clinton? Who knows? Could be Bill Cosby. Could be anybody. But I've always felt that I had kind of a duty to do my due diligence, research, and provide an antidote to the modern grifter podcast landscape. Because there are a lot of podcasters, there are a lot of media outlets, there are a lot of media personalities, whether they be independent or they be part of the lamestream media. There's a lot of them that are just reactionaries. They get on and they just say something that's unfounded. They say something that's kind of ridiculous, or they say something that's really easy to say. And I always wanted to provide an antidote to that, to kind of be calmer, try to spin something to make it as positive and optimistic as possible. That being said, it can be hard sometimes, paying attention and doing heavy research into wars and conflict and death and disease and famine and corruption. It can get pretty heavy, and it's something that I had to, practice and get good at. When I first started, every single time I would be done researching, a landslide or something in a country where 800 people died or were missing, it sucked. It can weigh down on you. It can hurt your heart. It hurts anybody's heart when you read into a tragedy, and there are tragedies that happen around the world all the time. That being said, the Epstein files, as they've continued to unravel and more of them, the files are being released, it almost became too much, because it's something that's so, the sheer evil, the demonic, dark, void, sucking the light and the goodness out of the world, levels of evil, the biblical, and I mean truly biblical levels of evil involved in the Epstein saga is just, it's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. I can't think of another way to describe it. You have, documentary that came out a couple years ago on Netflix, talks about the child trafficking. It's nothing to scoff at. Anytime that anybody hurts a kid, I truly believe they should get, old-fashioned French guillotine, cut their head off in the town square. If you hurt a child on purpose, and not just hurting a child, you permanently scar them. It's like you can symbolically feel the white, clean, angelic innocence of a child being taken from them with the things that Jeffrey Epstein was charged for and found guilty for in 2008, I think. He kept doing it. We have a documentary about it. We have a lot of people talk about it. But the scale of it has always had a kind of taboo, a conspiracy theory label to it. Well, there's no way that there were a bunch of leaders and former and current presidents, former and current prime ministers, chancellors, leaders of elected officials, and CEOs of the most powerful countries that really keep the world going. No way. I mean, that's an Alex Jones conspiracy. Alex Jones a kook. He's the guy that said Sandy Hook was fake. And then the files come out. The files that they're allowing us to see. The ones that we can easily redact by pasting them into Microsoft Word and taking the black redaction part off. And it just goes as deep as the kooks, your crazy aunt and uncle, the crazy guy at your church, the homeless dude rambling on the streets. It is as bad, if not worse, than they said. You have potentially, and I have to be careful how I word this. You have potentially the most powerful country in the world. I mean, this isn't even a potentially, but this is just factual. I don't have the exact number, so I'm just going to say the majority of Congress has taken money from a foreign government or a PAC or super PAC, or just, a kind of medium to large size donation from a PAC or a super PAC or wealthy individuals that don't benefit the United States, number one. It does benefit the United States sometimes, but it tends to benefit another foreign government. Okay? And then we have Jeffrey Epstein, who, these are all things that I'm saying that are factual, that came from the files, or they were already public knowledge. These are nothing I'm about to say is a conspiracy theory. I will let you know once I start giving my theories and my opinions on this, okay? Jeffrey Epstein, his business partner, and I hate to call it a business because it's disgusting, but his child trafficking, sex ring, pedophile ring partner is Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell, is a British national who, when he died, got a state-funded funeral in Israel. Members of actual Israeli intelligence said on record that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are running a honeypot scheme, which, I mean, is not news. It's pretty clear that the operation they were running was kind of a blackmail scheme. You throw a party, a bunch of famous people come to it. Probably most of them are not doing anything and harming any underage girls, or they're girls that could be questionably aged. I'm not going to get into that stuff. Regardless, if you have any connection with Epstein, it could just be that he emailed you once or he invited you to a party once. You're screwed because you now have been associated with, you're guilty by association with the guy who in 2008 was charged with the worst of the worst kind of crime. You know, harming kids in this way. Not smacking a kid, but hurting them in the worst way possible. So, the Israeli intelligence guy saying this isn't anything new. The problem is that he got away with it. Yeah, he was charged. Yeah, he was found guilty in 2008. What happened after that? He was under quote-unquote house arrest. He was able to leave. He was able to fly internationally. He was able to leave the country. He was able to continue to potentially traffic children, innocent underage women. And some were adults, but they're also innocent. If you get trafficked legally, definitionally, it's against your will. So, what I'm trying to say is, what even can I do? What is a regular person who has a podcast that most people will never listen to, podcast that doesn't really have a listenership at all, but I still have this weird internal duty to share news, talk about news, give my most independently thought response and reaction? What am I supposed to do? If the former president of the United States, potentially current president of the United States, although I really don't want to make this about Trump because I hate that the Epstein thing, which is so much bigger, like I said, it's biblical levels of evil. It's just good versus evil, truly. It's angels versus demons. It has nothing to do with bipartisan politics. But unfortunately, a lot of people, especially in America, because their brain's been completely rotted by this like Super Bowl level, team sports level, my side versus your side, if you ain't with us, you're against us kind of mentality, have turned it into a, if I'm a Republican, oh man, Bill Clinton's in the files. Looks like the Democrats are all hurting the kids. They're all pedophiles. And then if you're a Democrat, oh look, Donald Trump's in the files. It's what I thought. I don't like him, and the thing that I want to believe, I'm going to see it. Confirmation bias. I knew he was in there. It's got nothing to do with that. It's bigger than Bill Clinton. It's bigger than Donald Trump. It's bigger than Barack Obama. It's bigger than Hillary Clinton. It's bigger than Prince Harry Potter, whatever that guy's name is. It's bigger than that. It's the fact that leaders of the most powerful countries in the world may or may not have known this was going on, or they partook in this and they got away with it, and they will get away with it. And I will have to make this completely 100 million% clear. I hope that justice is brought upon them legally. I hope they go to prison, and then eventually they will have to answer for their crimes to God. I don't want any violence to be brought upon these people. I do not believe in vigilante justice. Okay? It's cool in the TV shows. It's cool in the comic books like The Punisher and Daredevil. It's cool when Deadpool does it. But I don't want that to happen in real life. It's just after doing so much research on this stuff and seeing these people, it's some of it's speculative. You know, a lot of people think if you were just included, if you search the files and a name is mentioned, it could just be Epstein mentioned your name once, all of a sudden, boom, without looking into it, people are like, oh, look at this. Britney Spears is in the Epstein files. It could just be that he emailed someone and said, Britney Spears is crazy, or Britney Spears is hot. I don't know. And then you have people who were definitely involved more, but they didn't know. It was before he was charged with these crimes. He was maybe just known as a rich guy that threw cool parties. Rich people like to go to each other's parties, right? Not everybody who went to a Puff Daddy party, was committing the same crimes he did, or even knew that it happened. They could have just been hanging out with a rich, famous guy who threw cool parties. Then there are people who associated with him even after he was charged. This was public knowledge. It was big news when it broke. They continued to hang out with him. And you have to differentiate these people, of course. I'm not saying that everybody who's mentioned in the files I just said, they're not all pedophiles. They're not all demons that will have to answer for their crimes to God. But a lot of them are. Even some that I gave the benefit of the doubt. Elon Musk, for example. I'm not saying he's a pedophile. I'm not saying that he hurt kids. But he lied to everybody. He said that he was approached by Epstein a few times and he turned him away, said no. The files show that he reached out and he even tried to plan a couple visits to Epstein's Island after he was charged with these crimes and is officially a registered sex offender, criminal, has the biggest scarlet letter imaginable, and he still tries to plan a visit to his island. And he denied it. He lied. And the emails show that he reached out and embarrassingly, Jeffrey Epstein rejected him. And he made up like one of those lies when you make plans with a friend and then you lie and say you stubbed your toe so you can't go out. That's what happened to Elon Musk. So the richest man in the world, potentially associated with and tried to hang out with and go to the island of a registered sex offender, part of a, and I quote, intelligence ran honeypot operation. And then you have Bill Clinton, former president of the United States. There are pictures of him. There are pictures of Prince Draco Malfoy or whatever his name is. Disturbing stuff. Him leaning over a clearly underage girl because she's small and her face is blacked out. And then the big one, to clear the air, Trump. All of his associations with Trump are either mentions from Epstein talking crap about him, talking about him to other people, and like Trump said before, he knew him. They both liked girls. He associated with him, cut him off in 2004, 4 years before he was convicted of those crimes. I don't care about that. That is honestly a fart in the wind compared to the rest of the stuff. I don't care. I want everybody who hurt children or was aware of it and let it happen without getting authorities involved or at least distancing themselves at the very least. I want these people to be held accountable in a court of law. I don't care who it is. It could be Kanye West, my favorite rapper, my favorite single artist if I had to pick of all time. If he was in the files in a way that showed that he was committing crimes against children, the worst crime possible, effectively making him a demon in my eyes, the worst person imaginable, the worst type of person. You're not a person to me when you hurt kids like this. You're not a human being to me. You are a vessel for something ugly. So if Kanye West was there, I'd want him to be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I don't care who it is. I don't play partisan politics like this. It's not, oh, well, I voted for this guy, so therefore I'm going to ignore that he committed the worst possible crime against the most innocent life form on the planet. I don't think that way. And if you think that way, take a hard look in the mirror. Think about, if you don't have kids, think about a cousin of yours, a nephew of yours, a sibling of yours. Think about when you were a kid. Think about kids that you knew or that you know having this happen to them. Would you care if it was your favorite actor, your favorite politician, your favorite sports guy or girl? I would hope that the answer is no, and that you'd want them to be punished to the full extent of the law. And the good thing is, here's the positive thing. Here's why I'm not quitting the podcast. Here's why I'm not giving up. Because people are holding their politicians, their elected leaders, their formerly favorite celebrities and famous people accountable. They're not letting the current administration get away with not releasing these files when they were supposed to, not releasing them fully, not doing what they promised, not doing what Trump ran on, not doing what Kash Patel ran on, not doing what Dan Bongino ran on, not doing what Caroline Leavitt and all these people promised would happen, Pam Bondi. When these people make promises in modern America, the people that they're supposed to represent are now holding them accountable by protesting, by resisting, by making vlogs, videos, podcasts, writing Substacks, writing blogs, voting against them, campaigning for opposition. This is why there's hope. Because maybe, most likely, the part that bothered me the most is that I came to the realization that, I am being too optimistic. These people are not going to be held accountable in a court of law. They're not going to spend any meaningful time in prison. They're not even going to pay a fine. But they will be held accountable by God, by the universe, by whatever it is that you believe in, if you believe in anything. At the end of the day, they have to answer for their crimes one day, one way or another, whether that be spiritually, whether that be with their fractured, if it even still exists, soul. But the thing that gives me hope is that we're holding these people accountable. We're not letting them get away with it. If you are somebody that's associated with them, good luck. In the age of the internet, everybody knows now. Sometimes a little too much. Sometimes people go, oh, the name was mentioned once, therefore they were committing crimes against kids. But for a while there, it was pretty heavy. I really, I just kept asking myself, why even talk about this? Nothing's ever going to happen. Nothing good. For a split second there, I took the black pill, but I spit that sucker out. And I'm taking fistfuls of the white pill. I'm not taking pills. I'm making a reference to to the Matrix. The white pill is hope, optimism. We'll always take the white pill. The black pill is for quitters, and I'm not a quitter. And neither are the rest and the majority of the world, or the majority of Americans. We're not quitters. So there is hope. It is a big travesty and a big injustice that more people are not going to prison for what they've done and their involvement with Epstein. But at the end of the day, something like this might happen again, but we will hold these people accountable legally, the fullest extent of the law. They're not going to get away with this. They will never be looked at or trusted again, and that's how it should be. Fool me one time, that's it. You don't get to do it twice and the third time. So, when really thinking hard and doing a lot of research on the Epstein files, the Epstein saga, whatever you want to call it, I really almost, at one point I thought to myself, looks like evil won. Evil wins. They got away with it. They won. Then I went outside. Then I looked at the trees, looked at the blue sky, felt the sun, talked to my family, had dinner with my wife, looked at pictures and videos of my little cousins growing up, growing older, And then I realized, just because the bad guys got away with it, and they're out free, quote unquote, they didn't win. They're not free. Their souls are marked. Their hearts are imprisoned. And they will lose. Good wins. For every one unfortunate, heartbreaking soul or destruction of innocence, for every bit of evil and horror that's done and corruption of something innocent, there's 10 more innocent lives being born. 10 more children that are making friends, that are making and creating permanent memories with their families. There are 10 more instances of good, 10 more instances of hope, heroism, selflessness, altruism. So, when I felt pretty dark about these Epstein files, I just touched grass. I realized there's more good in the world than there is bad, and good will always win. Good is winning, and good will always win. So that's the message that I want to share. That's the main theme of this episode. It's the theme. It's the point of this podcast. The whole point of the podcast, the name Xendependently Minded, it's a combination of the Zen ideal of having inner peace, and then a play on being independently minded. So move about the world with inner peace and exercise independent thought and free expression. That's the point of the podcast. It's the point of the show. And I hope you guys took something from it. Good always wins. Always will. That's going to do it for this episode of Xendependently Minded. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you took something from it, whether it be positive, negative, neutral, or indifferent. Hope you guys stay tuned. If you want some more Xendependently Minded and you can't wait for the next 4 to 6 weeks or whenever the next one will be out, check out some old ones. Even though a lot of it is current event based, a lot of it, I'll get to toot my horn a little bit. A lot of what I say is pretty timeless, pretty sick. So I would check out the old episodes if you can't get enough of Independently Minded, to the three of you that listen regularly. But there are some exciting things going on in my life, so it's going to be a while before I post another episode. I got some things going on. I'm getting evicted from my apartment, and I'm going to be homeless, so it's going to be a while till I do another podcast episode. In all seriousness, though, I'm not getting evicted, but there are some things going on, so it's going to be probably at least 4 weeks till I do another episode, unless something huge happens. In case something even bigger than what's been happening happens, like, I don't know, breaking news like the Russia-Ukraine war has ended, I don't know, someone associated with Epstein gets arrested, I'm probably not going to be doing an episode. I won't have my podcast stuff, and it will be recorded from my phone, and it will sound like trash. So, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. The recommendation I have for everyone is a movie that took me a while to watch because I just never got around to it, always wanted to, but it's a movie called Manchester by the Sea. I probably should have brought up the director's name, but the main actor is Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother. His acting, some of the best acting I have ever seen in my entire life. The accuracy in the portrayal of depression in this movie is probably the best I've ever seen. Taxi Driver is pretty good. Robert De Niro in that is pretty good, but Manchester by the Sea, that's the recommendation. If you're into tearjerkers, you're into dramas, and if you just want to see some of the best acting ever captured on camera, check it out. I will catch you guys on the next episode. Stay hydrated, stay caffeinated, stay safe, and, of course, stay away from those crazies out there. Thank you.